Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Today, I'm going to be presenting the next episode of Worst Skills in PoE by Zelric. That's me. Today's episode will be on the Summon Flame Golem of the Meteor minion skill gem. I was asked to do this skill gem by a viewer of mine, so I am going to honor that request and do an episode on it. The reason is because this skill gem kind of has a identity crisis a little bit. The normal summon flame golem summons a golem that is your minion for a little bit and walks around, shoots little rolling magmas, basically like little projectiles that bounce a couple of times before ending, and it does a mediocre amount of damage unless you really invest into it, but the main reason why you'd want to use the skill in the first place is because of the buff it gives. When a flame golem is buffed or is out, it gives you a 20%, I think it's 29 now that it's been buffed, percent damage increase. Just a flat damage increase. Not flat, percent damage increase, but you know what I mean. Like, that's all it gives is a damage increase. This version of the skill uses the meteor section of when you summon the golem in order to do more damage. It prioritizes the meteor section of the summon. When you summon a flame golem in any variation, it comes down as a meteor and strikes the ground as like an AoE attack. Keep that in mind, it's an attack. This skill increases that portion of this, so it increases the AoE, and I'm fairly certain it has higher damage for the meteor itself in the background. The problem is that this doesn't have an attack skill tag, so the only ways to actually scale it are fire and minion. But you're basically not doomed, but you can't really make it a hit-based build, even though it's kind of wanting to be, because there's a big cooldown, so you're not hitting fast enough to make the hits worth it, in my opinion. Ignite's okay, you can do pretty good damage, but there are way better Ignite builds. So again, just like in the Summon Reaper example of last episode, this skill fails in its purpose due to the fact that it doesn't have that melee tag. You can't scale the melee part of it, thus you can't make it a hit tag, or you can't make it a hit-based build. You have to rely upon other factors to scale it, and it fails the whole fantasy of using meteors and then like the meteors summoning out like an infernal, like in WoW, to do the damage. But instead of the infernal doing all the damage, the meteor itself is doing most of the damage, and the golem is kind of secondary. I feel like this skill doesn't do that. It needs the addition of an attack tag to help that. That's really mostly what it needs. I feel like the addition of a attack tag on only this variant of Summon Flame Golem would probably fix it almost entirely. Other than maybe a buff, of course. I've been given permission to look at a build doing a T17 for this skill specifically, and this is his Flame Dot Golem of Meteor Elementalist build. This is Cheap Bunny. I recommend that you go see his or her, I don't know if it is a he or a her, channel. They are a smaller channel, but they graciously allowed me to use their video for this purpose, and I very much so appreciate them. So please go subscribe, go like this video, and show them some love. This is an older stuff, but they're a great channel. Anyway, I'm going to show you the build write-up they have a little bit first. Basically, this isn't a video build. This is highlighting the problems with the build, but I'm just showing you that there is a worked build that is updated for 3.26. So if you want to experience one of the worst builds of all time, not all time, but one of the worst builds in PoE right now, not because of Cheap Bunny's attempts. Cheap Bunny's attempts are probably great, and this build probably works fine to do whatever you'd want it to do. But there are better alternatives for igniting, I would imagine, and this is just kind of for somebody who really likes the flavor of summoning golems and using that golem to then ignite. That is totally fine, just like everything else in the series of videos that I make. I am not directly blaming anybody or shitting on anybody for like making a build out of these skills. It's more of a, I want to highlight the fact that there are flaws in the skills so that they can be fixed and brought up to a better standard. That way, even if they are numerically not necessarily there, these skills have a fundamental flaw in the way they function or the way that they are scaled that make them less desirable to use. There was literally only one summon Flame Golem of Meteor in the entirety of the 82,000 characters on the Settler Softcore League. I only found the one, and I'm not going to show that because it's meaningless. But just so you know, out of all the 82,000 characters that made it high enough to get on that site on PoE Ninja, not DB. I'm sorry, I confused those two a lot. Only one character used this skill, and that isn't always like an indicator of how bad a skill is, but it is a telltale sign that not a lot of people are using it for some reason, you know. And I believe the reason is because it's just clunky to scale. Minions and flame are fine enough, but you want to make this a hit-based build, and you can't. And because of that, it feels funky, because you're trying to make an ignite build out of a very lackluster skill gem in general. Anyway, here is the T17. This is from 2 leagues ago, but from Cheap Bunny. This is the T17 that he did using this build, and you'll see a little bit of honestly pretty impressive gameplay for a build that is probably hard to scale compared to some others. And I'm going to mute it because he doesn't really say anything. It's just the sounds of the game. But yeah, you'll see this. I mean, he's able to hit rares. He doesn't really do a lot of single target, but he's able to map pretty well, obviously. This is a T17s from 2 patches ago, so these are probably even harder than the ones that we have now. And he's able to map pretty well. I mean, to be totally honest with you, he's not taking out packs immediately. There's a massive cooldown on Summon Flame Golem of Meteor because it's a Summon Flame Golem skill. So it's not like you can spam it out, as you can see. Thus making the hit section, the whole point of the Meteor attack, kind of a moot point. It's kind of useless to make a hit-based build because of how slow it is. That's why this build is an Ignite build, because it capitalizes on the fact that, of course, the Meteor does probably a decent amount of damage on its own to do a pretty good Ignite. Now, I say that there are better builds like Wave of Conviction or things like that for Ignite because they just do higher amounts of damage as a whole. And that's basically it, really. I don't know the gear level of this. I'm sure it's pretty far up. I couldn't find a way to get a look at this character specifically and their gear, and it doesn't display it in this video. But just, it looks okay, kind of, but like, I don't know. There's not really. There are better builds to use for this, right? Like, it doesn't look incredibly impressive when you could probably look at this beside a Wave of Conviction build and it would be doing this content for at least a little bit cheaper, I would imagine. And that's it. Again, that's not me saying that Cheap Bunny's build is bad or anything. I'm sure it's a fantastic build for what he's working on, and this build fulfills a fantasy for some people of just wanting to use the Flame Golems in whatever capacity they can. And so this build has a place, and it deserves to be here, and it's amazing for what it does. And thank you very much, Cheap Bunny, for allowing me to use your content. Again, not trying to shit on anybody. It's just highlighting the flaws of a skill that hopefully will get fixed eventually if GGG watches this series. But anyway, that's kind of part of it. You can finish watching this video, but yeah, it's just not good. There are better alternatives for the reason that this build is using it, and the hit-based part, which is kind of the whole identity of the Meteors, is something that you can't really even scale all that well because of how high the cooldown is. and there's not any super reliable ways to get the cooldown down to a point where you can spam it. So as you can see, his single target is okay, but it's not definitely not great. Now, again, I don't know the build's like year level at this point. It could be great, it could be mediocre. I don't know. If it's mediocre, then that's pretty good, I would say. If it's pretty high up there in gear, it's probably definitely needs some love. Either way, it needs some love from GGG in a big balance pass, which hopefully next season they will do, because they said that this season is more of like in-game focus, but the next season will be more balance focused. So hopefully in their balance focus they hit some of these skills that I've been talking about in this series, like Summon Reaper, like this one, like Brand Recall, and whatever, I don't even remember the first one, but anyway, like all those, Conversion Trap, like all those. If they can get like a rework slash rebalance amongst them, I would be a happy camper. But I will continue doing this series on all the skills that I feel like need a bit of love from GGG, mostly reworks, not numerical buffs. Please leave a like and subscribe on this video if you want to see me talk about even more kind of broken slash needing a rework skill gems. I will put them in this catalog, is what I call it, a catalog of the worst skills. Anyway, that's been Zelric, and peace out.